Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where frontline sales leaders teach you how to build and scale an outbound sales team. Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Collin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by Steve Ross. It sounds like I paused there for a second, like I didn't know who was coming on the show. But Steve's the Director of Sales Development at Outreach. This is kind of the 1-2 punch, because we just had Mark on the show. We were talking with Mark about, having a good conversation as an account exec. But the one thing that we didn't go super deep on was, how do you start those conversations? We talked about it a bit, but that's really what we're going to dive in on here with Steve. Welcome to the show, Steve. Yeah,
thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Hey, me too. And we started this conversation a couple of weeks back, and I think I asked you, if you met a new salesperson, you only had an hour, what's the number one thing that you would teach them? Do you remember what you said?
I probably remember pretty close, but let me just pretend I know what I'm talking about. So I think with for us in sales development, it'd be really two things that I'd spend my time on. One would be preparing who are you going to contact? So for us, it's like what are the accounts you're going to go after, and within that framework, who do I need to contact at that particular account? What are the personas that you want to go after? What can you find out about that organization that's valuable from a qualification standpoint, from a news standpoint? Anything that we can find in our tech stack. What kind of tools are they using? Because that's going to give me the intelligence about the account to know, A, is it worth going after to begin with? What size is that account? What's the opportunity set within that account? And so I'm going to gather my information, my intelligence about the account. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, who are the contacts I want? And I'm going to find something about all of those contacts, right? So I'm going to be, looking at their LinkedIn page, trying to get an idea of what makes them tick and what's important to them. And all of this is designed for the second most important thing, which is preparing me to have a great conversation. So as an SDR, you're outbounding a lot, right? You're going to be getting people mostly cold on the phone. And so I would prepare you with a script, right? So you can have a conversation with anybody. And I want you to be prepared, like no matter what, you don't know, like we have a standard in Outreach of 75 dials per day, right? So you're going to be making a lot of phone calls. And it might surprise some people, like most people don't pick that phone up, right? So you don't know when you're going to be live on a call. And so you got to be prepared to go right into a conversation. So I would prepare you with what's your opening and what are you going to say when that person picks up the phone? How are you going to address any objections that they have, questions that they have? Because you got to be tight. You only get a short window to create that interest, to be safe, on the other end of the line. And so the two things are just really being prepared about account information and then how to use that when you reach out. We do a lot of phone work, but same thing would apply via email. If I'm going to personalize an email, I want to have that intelligence for my personalized email. But really, it's gathering the facts, gathering the information, and then knowing how to apply it in a situation where they're not ready for you. They're not expecting you. And so you got to be on your game 100%.
Perfect. So that first step is really sort of identifying, if I could, and then being ready to have a great conversation.
Exactly right.
Cool. So let's jump in on identifying, because I feel like you could almost spend a whole episode talking about, how do you identify the best prospects?
Right.
And then we'll go identify, then we'll talk about, how to have a great conversation, if that's not too meta for everybody.
Sure.
But when it comes down to it, I mean, you're trying to, as an SDR, like you said, you're trying to prioritize your time. How do you determine what the best opportunity to focus on would be?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, you want to you do some qualification metrics is where I would start. And so for us, we go after particular industries, right? So we're a SaaS company. Other SaaS companies are great for us. Just they blend well. So we don't limit ourselves to that, but that's, we want to look at like, what's an industry that would be applicable for our services? How are they structured? What's their sales structure? How do they go about winning business? Then I'm going to look at things like, for us, their technology is important, right? We got to be able to plug into their email platforms. They have to have a certain email platform, which most people have, the two that we would be most interested in. I'm going to be looking at, things like their CRM. We happen to connect well and sync well with Salesforce. So if I can find that out, it's going to save me time because if they don't have it, if I can tell that they don't have it, I'm not going to spend much time on that account. I'm not going to spend any time. But then you sort of look at, okay, if I have accounts that are now all qualified, what are the best accounts for me? And that's going to be things like size of account. For us, it would be how many salespeople work at that account, right? Because that's going to give me a potential seat count that when we go and present to them, that we have the opportunity to win. So I'm going to prioritize at a higher level. We look at things, to kind of gauge that. There's a few things we look at. What's the segment? Is it a small business? Is it commercial? Is it enterprise? We use some tools in like LinkedIn, to kind of gauge, because LinkedIn's, probably the best, self identified CRM there is. So we can do some things in LinkedIn to say, okay, how many sales professionals work within the organization? And then obviously I'm going to look at like who within that organization is the appropriate contact. Bigger organizations are going to have much more in the way of entry points. So that's how we'd really do it is the industry, size, qualification factors, size of prize.
If we take, so let's assume that we've worked through all of our criteria to get to the right individual. Now we're getting them on the phone. We spent a bunch of time doing, I think you called it your mini discovery. Can you walk me through how you coach your team on how to have an exceptional conversation?
Yeah. So first of all, we do give our reps a script. We do want them to open up strong, not have to think about it. So, the opening is pretty much the same unless we have a previous conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to open up pretty much the same way. And we're always going to get to the purpose of the call. The purpose of the call is we want to set up time to meet with you. And that's the thing, we're always going to come back to that purpose. No matter what throws us off, we're always going to come back to that purpose. But as we get that conversation going, we want to learn about their business. We want to know how can we help. Now at Outreach, our SDRs are not doing a full discovery, but I think what we talked about is like maybe there's a mini discovery. And so we'll plant maybe a question or two in our dialogue to get the prospect talking. Mm-hmm. So we can understand, and it's open-ended questioning. We might ask you like, tell me, how do you go about growing your business today? And so, if you're playing ball, you're going to give me a couple things. And what I'm looking for is a way to connect your pain, your issue, your challenge, your focus that you're working on to how Outreach can help, right? And so I might say, how do you grow? Well, I've got, team SDRs that do prospecting, and then we do AEs. And so I can kind of dig in that a little bit. And tell me, do you have some metrics about your SDRs and what are they? And, are they hitting their number, right? Mm-hmm. And now if I get a no, that's bad for them, good for me.
Yeah.
Right. So now I can say, I can start to create that contrast frame of where they are today to where they want to be. And then I can combine that with how Outreach can help. And a lot of times what we'll do with SDRs after they've been here for a little while, they've generated their own personal story. So I can now drop in, as we're having that dialogue, well, hey, let me tell you how Outreach works for me. Let me tell you what I've accomplished with Outreach. Mm-hmm. So now I make that story a little bit personal. And then I can kind of come back and ask for that close. And the close is, we want to meet with you. We'll set some time on your calendar to meet with you.
Okay. So walking through the process. So we've got opener, and that's pretty scripted.
Yeah.
And you're driving really towards, quick question for you. Tell me how your team grows today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then from there, you're basically, what happens next? Because they're not always gonna, they'll say, marketing and sales. They're not always going to give you the right answer. So what if they give you a brush off?
Well, they usually give you a brush off, right? So most often you come in, you give your opener, and 9 times out of 10, you're getting them cold. You're getting them when they're in a meeting, they're going to a meeting. They're doing something other than wanting to talk to you.
Yeah.
And so usually you're going to get an objection. And so the process tends to be, the opener, we find you're going to have an objection pretty early, right? And so there's 5, 6, that you're going to get most often, right? So you got to be prepared for what those are. You're handling that, and you're going to kind of come back. And a good way that you can kind of come back is you handle the objection, and then you insert that question, right? So I'm not interested. I'm going to give you that handle, and then I'm going to come back with a question, try to get you talking, dig. Because the most important thing to do is determine, have I gotten deep enough, or did I get too deep?
Gotcha.
And there's a balance there, like knowing when to strike.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, you're going to handle it. You're going to ask some questions. You're going to come back to qualification, right? Because now I'm booking the meeting. I'm going to qualify you, and then move forward. So it's definitely a dance, right? It doesn't matter if you plan it all out. Once you get in the game, it's not going to go the way you planned it, but you got to be prepared. So you open it, get that objection, have the conversation, strike when the iron's hot, and then bring it home, qualify it, and then you're gonna finish that conversation.
So let's dive in on that piece there, because I think it's something that's easy to say, but I think in the actual practice when you're on the calls it gets much harder. Mm-hmm. How do you know when you've got enough to seize on? Because I think it makes sense. You open it, like the opener, they're going to throw you a blow off objection. You handle that. Mm-hmm. Then you get one quick question in there. You start to dig. Okay, elaborate here, elaborate there. How do you know? Like you said, strike when the iron's hot. Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you? How do you know when?
So you have to know what your product or your service actually does. And so what that means is you got to find enough information that you can make the connection. And so that might be kind of confusing, but for us, we can deliver pipeline. Like that's what we can do at Outreach. Mm-hmm. We can deliver more pipeline, and one of the promises we make is 30% more. And so that's something I know that if I can find that as an issue or a challenge that a prospect has, I can make that connection. So I'm asking questions about, maybe the team's performance, how many people are hitting quota, because these are all things that, like, if I have a negative response to that or a gap, now I know I can take that gap and close it. And it's the same with any other product or service. So it's not just an outreach thing. It's know what your product or service can deliver. Mm-hmm. And then you sort of explore around that. And then once you're here, oh, that makes sense. I know how we solve that. And so it's important for the rep to actually know how you solve problems, right? Because otherwise you just have a conversation, you ask a bunch of questions, you don't know where it goes. Mm-hmm. And so you have to really know what do you deliver to customers? And then what you're listening for is, that's what we solve. And you can even get really excited. That's where we need to meet. You just told me something. That's why we need to meet. Mm-hmm. We do X.
Yeah, you said you have Y. We can solve. We have Y pills in a little bottle. We can sell you.
Right. Yeah. And the one thing that we teach here too is, and why we ask the questions. Right? Why not just come in, hammer it, be done with it, book a meeting, and be done. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of power in you saying it versus me. If you're the prospect, I can sort of give you problems that you probably have, right?
Yeah.
You might even agree with me. But for you to say it, it's way more powerful. And so that process of open-ended questions is going to get you to say something that now I come back with how I solve that challenge. If I just go with a fastball, we call it a fastball, I can certainly book a meeting with you.
Yeah.
I just go like plow right through, we should meet. You might book a meeting with me, but you're not showing up.
You're not going to be there.
Yeah. So there's a nuance of like being assertive and aggressive without being, just hammering somebody to get them to take the meeting.
How do you document that gap? Like when you pass it off to an AE, hey, we found this gap. Here's what we think it is.
Yeah. So we actually have a box in our CRM instance where when we create an opportunity, there's a box called the mantra. And it's a required field for SDRs to complete. And in that, it's we're describing the situation so that it's clear. Like, here's what we discussed. Here's the challenge that they face. And then we also drop in things like qualification factors. They've got a team of 20 reps. This is the senior vice president of sales. This is a little bit about how that person shows up. Like very, assertive, very, to the point, or very, open and gregarious. There's actually a box we call the mantra that gets put into an opportunity. We also take that same information and we have a confirmation process, which is via email. So if I called you up, you book a meeting with me, you're going to get an email from me right after. It's going to, date, time, all the rest, but it's also going to jot down what we talked about, right? So that, again, we're agreeing that this is what we talked about. Copy our account executive. So I've got it in a couple places. I got it in my CRM. I got it in an email that got sent to the prospect. I'm copied on that. As an account executive, I'll often hit reply all, really looking forward to meeting with you, and how I can help with, again, blank, the challenge that you might have. So we kind of round all that out in a way that ties it up. And, some of our SDRs even go, we'll Slack a message like, hey, I just booked a meeting. It's with John. Here's the situation. Bang. They'll often even do that right before the meeting, just because, like if you're an account executive, you might have back-to-back meetings. You might be coming, from, you might be traveling. And so we want to make sure that you've got stuff at your fingertips. So you're not coming into a call blind or doing what's kind of annoying, which is asking the prospect the same thing they just told somebody else a day or two ago.
Yeah, we don't want to have that exact same conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even though you're only having a, is it 5-10 minute conversation with?
Yeah, a good one's 3 to 5 minutes.
Beautiful. Right.
And that's the other thing too. We don't want to keep it tight. And one of the mistakes that people can make is trying to boil the ocean on the SDR side. You don't need to. Like, really, because of our specialized process, you actually want the account executive to get that and take it from there. They're more experienced. They've got more deep training, and so you can kind of like mess things up if you go too far. You can actually unsell your meeting because you might be dropping seeds of doubt that you didn't need to do, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So if you're in the SDR role, the goal really is, your ultimate goal and what you're paid on is booking as many meetings as you can with that account exec.
Yeah, get a meeting.
You're not paid to go deep into the qualification realm. It's basically just find people with, these 3 criteria that sort of fit within our ICP and make sure they show up.
Yeah, quality meeting shows up. Get as many of those as you can.
Phenomenal.
With the right kind of prospects.
Do a couple more questions for you here. Do you ever get kicked? Do meetings ever get kicked back to the SDR team?
Yeah. So we have a couple processes in place. One, which we manage pretty tightly. We don't have a whole lot of. It's like a meeting that shouldn't have been booked, meaning it was, we can't do anything for them. So it's going to get kicked back for disqualification. The other thing that might get kicked back is, we're looking for like sales leaders, right? We want a VP of sales, for example. We want a CRO. A rep can make a mistake and book, what's a good one for us? Like a business development director. Okay. So a new rep might make that mistake because that sure sounds like a manager, right? So easy mistake to make. It's frontline rep many times, right? So, and they may take the meeting. Like you might have had a great conversation, like, yeah, Outreach sounds amazing. But then it goes over to the account executive to get in line, find out there's no team. So, okay, great. SDR, this is going back to you. Here's why. Like, a lot of you got me a meeting, but we can't meet with individual contributors in our environment. So that's going to get kicked back. We also have, a situation where, let's say that everything was great, like qualified account, qualified person, everything's in good shape, but the timing is wrong, right? For whatever reason, they're not open to, moving into a deal cycle with us for whatever reason. So it's not a penalty. It just is. It's going to go back to the SDR, but what we do is our account executives give what's called a re-engagement instruction. So I'm going to have that conversation like, hey, I can't do anything now, but like I'm interested, but we probably need to pick this up in Q4. Okay, great. So it's Q2 now. As an AE, I'm going to jot down that note, call Bob, in the end of, for us, Q3, right? So that I know, bang, I can call you back up now, and I've got that in my tool chest. We spoke back in June. You mentioned X, Y, and Z were some challenges you were facing. You had some interest back then, but the timing was off. And you told us to call you back, and here we are. And so it's kicked back, but there's two kinds of kickback. There's you shouldn't have done it kickback, and there's you did a great job kickback, but there's more work to do.
Gotcha. And so if the timing isn't there, you'll kick that back to the SDR team.
Yeah.
How do you define time, right? Because obviously Q4 you're going to kick it back, and if the guy's like, hey, I'm out of office next week, can we do the following week? You're probably not going to kick it back.
Right.
Where's that midpoint for you? Like where's the point where you're like, okay, you know what? The timing isn't right here. Is it a month, 2 months, a quarter?
Well, it kind of comes down to, for us, it's like when could we? When's the best time to engage? So I'll give you an example. You're in a contract with a competitor. Okay, let's say it's 6 months out. As an AE, I might still take that. Why? Because if you were going to switch, right, you got to make that plan. Probably you got to start thinking about it now, honestly. And so I might take that and keep it because I know you're the right kind of prospect. You're already using our competitor. But if we're going to sort of unwind that, and you've got interest, so you're having problems with how the competitor's performing, they're not keeping up with their promises. I might want to keep that in my pocket and work that out. It might be that, you're the CRO and you just started last week. Okay, so I'm not making any decisions. I'm not bringing anything in here. I got lots of problems to solve. So, yeah, we're not having a conversation right now. So that's a little bit different situation because I want to give that person room to breathe. Right, and right person, right says account, right everything. But I might push that back because as an AE, I can't get them to say, okay, let's have a demo. Let's take a next step. So there's a little bit of judgment in like, does it make sense for me as an AE because I know there's an opportunity here that can be, that needs some planning and needs to get driven forward probably by me because I had a longer conversation. I've got a bigger relationship already. I can nurture that really well versus kind of like a standoffish, like, I'm just not evaluating anything right now. I'll keep you in mind, reach out in the future. So that's going to be more like, let's go back to the SDR with that.
Gotcha. I got 2 more questions that I want to sort of end on here. And one's going to be a bit longer, but we sort of brushed over common objections that you hear.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there were 6.
Yeah.
Can we go through each one of them? And
of course.
Love to hear how the great Steve Ross handles objections.
Well, sure.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
So I'm not interested. So we're on the call. I'm not interested. How's it? How are you
So, usually when we get that, it's going to be right out of the gates, right? So, I didn't really deliver value at that point. And so, and our first natural response is going to be like, give me 27 seconds to explain what we do. Is that fair? And then, you'd be surprised. And I read somewhere, heard somewhere, there's a lot of psychology around that 27 seconds, which is a pattern interrupt. And surprisingly, most people will say, sure.
I think my mind went to why 27 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what you're designed to do, right?
Yeah. And so then we'll tell them what we'll do. Or the second thing we would do is the personal story. When I come in every morning, I've got a very detailed lineup of what I'm going to accomplish for the day. Who I'm going to call, when I'm going to call them, why I'm going to call them. And so I can absolutely get 75 dials done a day, book X number of meetings. Matter of fact, that's why we're on the phone right now. Purpose, and then I'm going to go back to my purpose. My call is schedule some time.
Gotcha.
But usually when they say they're not interested, it's almost always up front, and it's a blow off.
Totally. I'm just trying to hang up the phone at this stage.
Yeah.
So let's stack this one. So, okay, you've got through not interested. You know what? I don't have time.
Right. So again, I'll be brief. And I'll share what we do. So the big point is I don't have time. So that's a plea for I'll be brief, and I'm going to go right into it.
Gotcha.
Right, because that's another blow-off thing. I don't have time. But if I can promise you that I will be quick, and I get to the point, you can get to it.
So if I promise you that I'll be brief, I'll only take 27 seconds of your time.
Yeah.
Can you spare a few seconds?
Yeah. And in that one, I might use the 27 seconds, where I might just say I'll be brief, and jump right into it.
Not even ask.
Yeah.
Just like I'll be brief.
Because it's almost like annoying. Like if I've already told you that I don't have time, and you ask me for time, like I'm kind of annoyed. If I just say I'll be brief and then go, you'll probably be able to go, or you'll get hung up on. But you'll probably be able to go.
So you see, I don't have time. Like a bit of a speed bump. It's like you're going to slow down and listen, but I'll be brief. Because explaining that, I'm only going to be 37 seconds, do you mind if I have a few minutes of your time?
You've already taken too much time.
You've already, that's cut halfway into your pitch. You could have just gotten halfway out the door, right?
And the reason why it sounds simple, if I just say I'll be brief, right? The reason why it sounds so simple is for us, we're calling your sales VPs, CROs. These are very direct people.
Yeah.
So am I going to recommend that to, if you sold something to HR? Maybe not.
Fair.
But it works for sales leaders because if you can come and just be like, bang, I'll be brief, and then you keep that promise, you're going to earn a little bit of respect.
Yeah, obviously you can't go and now try and take 6 minutes. Like you said, you're going to be brief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what if you get hit with, I don't have the budget. I don't know how many, is this even when you guys are getting on the phone?
We don't get budget much, but one of the ways that we'll handle that is that's not why I called. And
Pause. I love the pauses.
Why'd you call?
I just want to point that out. Like, I think people this is like, should be in the script. It's like,
yeah. Oh, we do. Yeah, we actually put them in there.
Big giant pause.
Yeah. That's not why I called. And you're gonna be like, why'd you call? Right? So the purpose of my call is, I want to set up a meeting with you for 15 minutes so we can show you blah, blah, blah. But so that we don't get that much. We will get it, a lot of times we get that more often at like the end of a year. Mm-hmm. You're coming into like November, December, and they'll say, hey, all my budget's spent. Mm-hmm. That's also a blow off. And so at the end of the year, you want to get your year started off right. And the value we provide is, let's go ahead and get a meeting on the calendar today so you can start your 2019 off strong. Mm-hmm. Now is the time we need to meet because you need to prepare for next year.
Yeah. So
we get that more in the end of the year than day to day.
That's fair. We get that one a bunch too. Oh, you don't want to start until next year. It's like, well, if you want to start, don't you want to start working on that now so you can start strong, as opposed to spending the first 2 months learning how to use a tool or learning how to, do X.
And by the time you roll it out, by the time you train people, you're already through the first quarter.
Exactly. So it's like, hey, we should have had this conversation 90 days ago.
Yep.
If that's what you wanted. So what if they're saying, hey, I'm not the right person?
So first of all, I'm going to ask you who the right person is. Say I didn't call high enough in your organization. Say I don't have the chief revenue officer. Mm-hmm. But let's say I got the VP of sales, right? Because I actually have the right person. First, I'm going to ask you, right? Because you might direct me to the CRO. Okay. So I'm gonna what we call pocket that referral. Or you might delegate me down. You might delegate me to sales ops. Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Who should I be contacting in sales operations? Okay. I'm going to pocket the referral because if I don't get you, I'm going to use your referral. Mm-hmm. So I pocket that. But that's not what I'm not going to say, okay, thanks so much. I'm going to call your sales ops guy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you, something, it might sound silly. I'm curious, like, are you a rep like me or do you manage a team? Well, I'm the VP of sales. Of course I manage a team. I got 50 reps that I manage. You're exactly who I should be talking to. A VP of sales is going to get the most value of what we do. And then, that gal might say, well, tell me more. Okay. So I pocket it because even if I get blown off, I can now go and say, well, Gail told me to call you, and here's why she told me to call you. Mm-hmm. So I can keep it. Or I do that punchline where it's kind of like, okay, you're right. I am. Okay, you got me. What do you want?
It's like you make a intentionally false assumption about them, and then they correct you. They're like, no, actually, I'm a manager. I manage 50 people, and it's my responsibility. And now that they've said that, it's very easy for you to say, oh, great.
Great. You're exactly the person. Yeah. Yeah. And it is because it's kind of like, it sounds dumb, but it's kind of playing dumb. Yeah. But then I can come back and seize that moment.
And they've already admitted that they're the right person. You can't go back and be like, oh, just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I was just making that up about the 50 people. I'm a habitual liar.
Exactly. And it also helps you ferret out because I was actually listening to one of our newer reps was on the phone, and he had a situation. It was the VP of I forget what, but an individual contributor. Mm. So on the surface, it was like, and the person did say, well, yeah, I'm actually just I close business.
Yeah.
So it's actually good to ask that question anyways, because if it's not the right person, I don't want to book with the wrong person.
Of course. And then so it's really, that question is win-win, because if they say, yeah, you're right, now I've disqualified you, where previously I would have booked you with an AE and had it thrown back in my face.
Right.
Well, not in my face, because your team probably isn't like that, but come back.
But I have an unhappy AE, right? Because I booked time and I wasted time.
Exactly. And then if they do turn out to be a leader of people, then now you've got them, and you can ask them. You've got them sort of pinned where they've admitted I'm the right person.
Right. Yep. And you kind of talked about the pause earlier, like you are the right person. You got to bring some energy up at that point. Like I'm excited. Like I got the right person on the line.
Yeah. Oh, you are the right person.
Yeah.
Oh, great, man. Now I'm excited because
why I called. Yeah.
Yeah. I talk to VPs all the time, and perfect. Yep. So let's say you get past that one, and this gal is throwing every objection in the book. She wasn't interested. Then she didn't have time, but you overcame that. Then she, didn't have budget because, it's end of the quarter.
Right.
Then she wasn't the right person, but you managed to figure out, okay, you know what? She actually does lead a team of 50 reps. So you've got her. She says, you know what? That sounds interesting. Send me some information.
No, she didn't.
Yeah. She
didn't do that one. Sure. Happy to do that. Just so I make sure I send you the most relevant information. Can you tell me, is your team facing concern with pipeline, not enough meetings, or having trouble getting reps up to speed? And so what I'm doing is a question there that I'm probably not going to send her the email, right? Like she doesn't want the email.
No.
My intent is to get a meeting and send the confirmation email. But what I'm doing there is saying, okay, I'll play ball. Happy to send you an email. But I'm going to lead you into a little bit of a trap, which is what do you want to get from me that's going to be most valuable to you? Mm-hmm. And then I'm just going to do that same process. I'm going to do what we talked about earlier. I'm going to go a layer deeper. That's the problem that we solve. My purpose again is to set a meeting with you. Do you have your calendar in front of you? And so I can kind of sidestep that.
Yeah.
In worst case, let's say, hey, send me an email. Let's say she gives me a very surface thing, but it's something I can work with, and says, I got to go, click. I can at least now use that information in my follow-up email. So I'm not sending something generic. But yeah, I want to bring that out so I can keep the conversation going.
Perfect. I'm ready to book a call with you, Steve.
Yeah. or the other thing so you said, hey, what if I've got somebody who's gave me, I got no time, I got no money, I got all of that. If I've done that mini discovery kind of throughout, mm-hmm. right, and she's just pushing back and punching me in the face, send me more information. Instead of doing what I just did, I can say, well, we just talked a minute ago that, your team is facing X. So I can, again, like you've told me something, so I can bring that back into a conversation later on, mm-hmm. that when I get an objection, you mentioned to me, because again, it's your words are more powerful than mine. You mentioned to me that X, that's the problem that we solve. So.
Perfect. And so that way you're bringing back her own words and you're saying, hey, we solved that. Now you're going in for the kill. That's your striking point. Hey, I think I've got enough here. You might not have been able to get as much on as some other calls, but this is sort of not quite the Hail Mary, but it's pretty close to, if they're giving you nothing, you can use their own words. Yeah. Strike there, try and pivot into let's close this deal.
If you have a little bit of rapport, you can also get a little bit more bold on that question too, which is, look, let's face it, you're not going to read my email. You're probably too busy. Your inbox is probably overflowing. Here's the problem that we solve. And my call today is to set up some time to show you how we can solve that problem for you. Mm-hmm. So you got to have, before you use that, you have to have a little bit of rapport. So you have to have your ear tuned to like, is this a confrontational? Has this been confrontational, the call, or is it kind of like, I just want to get this guy off the phone?
Yeah.
If it's, I just want to get this guy off the phone, sometimes that bull move, like, you're not going to read my email. We'll get a laugh, right?
Yeah.
And it could be like yeah, you're right, I'm not. And if I go back to, well, this is why we call. This is the problem that we solve.
Mm-hmm. And you got to have that dialed in. So any more objections that you normally get, or have we done a pretty good job?
No, I mean, I think you got it. I mean, what did we do? We did not the right person, time, money, budget. We get like a little bit of, I don't understand what you do, in which case, on a high level, this is the problem that we solve. That'll get, we actually probably get that most often, which is, because you're coming in, you pick up the phone, you didn't know what I was calling. You thought it was, the dog washer calling to get the dog picked up, and you got me on the line. So the first few seconds, you probably aren't even listening to what I'm saying, right? You're half listening. Who just called me? So a lot of it will be, who are you? What do you do? But then you just have to be able to come in and just deliver your value pitch real quick. Purpose of my call. So that actually hit that a lot, because I just wasn't ready for you as a prospect.
So you surprised them. You didn't actually get a chance to get right into it.
Well, yeah. So I got it. So I went into. So I had my call. I had my opening, but I cold called you. So you weren't expecting me. I don't know who Steve Ross is. I never heard of Outreach. And so I'm trying to connect that dot in my head, and I'm just like, who are you? What do you do? And so it's just kind of coming back with, glad you asked. I'm with Outreach, bing. And I kind of come in there and do that chunk and kind of again come back. The reason I'm reaching out to you is.
Cool. So I love that. I feel like we've gone, I think we need to write a blog post just on this objection handling process here. I think this was awesome.
We actually have one.
Fantastic. We'll link to it in the bottom of the episode here.
Cool.
Written by you?
No, it was actually written by one of my managers and one of our top reps who's exceptional at handling objections.
Awesome.
Better than me.
Right on. So they might be better, but we've got you on the line. The last part of the call, I want to give you and Outreach an opportunity to sort of pitch to the audience, but you got to do it by cold calling with me. What do you say?
Okay, cool.
Cool. So do the ring and I'll answer.
Sure, ring.
Hey, this is Collin.
Hey, this is Steve. I'm calling with Outreach. I know I'm an interruption. Do you have 27 seconds? I can tell you why I called.
Sure.
Great. Well, I believe we've found a breakthrough that personalizes and automates communication to help sales teams reach every lead, opportunity, and customer with the right content at the right time to drive predictable lift. The reason why I'm calling today is to get 15 minutes on your calendar to share this breakthrough with you. Do you have your calendar available?
Not interested.
Not. Well, look, I understand that we barely had a second to talk here, and let me ask you a question. First of all, you manage a team of salespeople, correct?
I do.
Hey, how many people are on the on your team?
27.
27. That's a big team.
Very specific number. Yeah.
Fantastic. So let me ask you this: is everybody on your team hitting quota?
No, of course not.
Of course not. About how many are?
Most. So like 80%. Yeah, let's say that.
All right, 80%. What would it look like to you if 100% of your team were to be hitting quota?
Look like a fairy tale, Steve.
Fairy tale. Well, I can tell you what, that's what we do. And I'd love to, schedule some time with you to show you exactly how we can get your team hitting 100% of quota. What's your calendar like?
I'd love you to send me some information.
Love to send you some information. Before I do that, I don't want to waste your time. So, you just mentioned, for example, that not everybody in your team is hitting quota.
That's right.
And so, in terms of being most valuable to you, what sort of information would you want from me in that email?
Probably the piece that you're going to help me connect, how you're going to get my bottom 20% to hit their quota.
Cool. Well, look, you're probably not going to read my email. You're a busy guy. You're interested in having that 20% hitting quota. So again, the purpose of my call is to schedule some time to show you how we can get that for your team. So let's go ahead and get your calendar out. What's the best time for you?
Love it. That was awesome, Steve. Got it.
Cool. All right.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Awesome.
fun.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.